Shawna and Jody here with Real Sisters, Real Talk.
We're glad to have you joining us as we talk about growing in our faith with God.
Hey, welcome to Real Sisters, Real Talk. I'm Shawna. That's my big sister, Jody, and we are so thrilled to have you with us today. We're just loving the community that's being built. And I've got to tell you, we've got a little text from, there is another set of Bauman sisters. We have cousins, and they were all together, and they reached out and said that they've been listening to the podcast, and just, it was just fun to hear from them and to hear how the conversation is expanding. And we just, if you're being like blessed by what's happening here and the conversations that are happening here, and you feel like you're finding community here and, oh, these are my people, we would love for you to share this. If you've been encouraged in any way, if it has blessed you, just share this podcast with maybe one other person, two other people, whatever, whoever comes to mind for you. We would love to meet them as well. But we are tiptoeing into, I don't know if we're tiptoeing in. We're like in the holiday season. We're there. It is snowing in West Michigan today. So I had to grab the scraper and the brush and throw everything in the car. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what? In Southern California, we were yesterday 48 degrees when I got
That's
up in the
really
morning. And
cold.
so
For
it
SoCal.
is.
Yeah.
It is for SoCal. And so, yeah, anyway, it was, it's definitely a shift in weather, which I love. I love this time of year. It's exciting to move into this holiday season and anticipate all that means. And this is just a fun time of year.
It
So,
is for sure. I want to hear a memory from your childhood around the holidays. Like, do you have a favorite or kind of a standout memory from, it could be Thanksgiving, it could be Christmas, it could be New Year's, it could be any of it.
yeah. Being sisters, it's kind of funny because we probably each have our own perspective or specific memories.
Sure.
This is kind of silly, but I remember, so we grew up with four girls, and mom and dad provided just incredibly for us, but we didn't have a ton. It wasn't like, the Christmas tree was filled with a lot of presents, and also being four girls, I think especially all the same gender, we didn't necessarily have a lot of things that were ours alone. There were a lot of shared things. And so Christmas was really special when we would get something that was for us. And so I'm going to share two quick stories. So one, I remember a Christmas when mom had presents under the tree and they didn't have names on them. And that stressed me out because how's she going to know which one's mine? Because Christmas means I get something for me. And
Yeah.
what she had done is she had bought some handheld video games, and it didn't matter which one of us got it because we were sharing them, which was so very fun. But at the same time, there was a little bit like, but my name's not on one. And so I remember that. And then, and just another memory, this is so silly, but I remember when we were, before we built onto the house, we built on a big game room. Our dad, built on a big den and a big game room. But before we built that on, our living room. So in our house, we had a formal living room, and you weren't allowed to sit on the furniture in that room. But that room, when we were really little, had had a pool table in it. And so I remember coming out for Christmas one year, and mom had bought each one of us a pair of pajamas, and it was laid out in our birth order, our own pair of brand new pajamas. And it's so silly, but I remember I was so excited to get a brand new pair of pajamas, and that was so fun. So, yeah, just silly memories, but
Yeah.
yeah. How about you?
I think my most memorable Christmas was, there was a year that I wanted this puppy. So I'm the youngest of the four girls, and I wanted this little brown dog with a red collar and a leash, and you put batteries in it, and it would like take a couple steps and go, "Arr, arr," and then take a couple steps, "Arr, arr." So anyway, this is what I wanted. Do you remember this Christmas? You're nodding like you remember
Oh
this.
my goodness. Of course I remember this.
Oh my gosh. I was like, that's all I wanted. And I got some presents, like Joe said, not like, it wasn't over the top in any way, shape, or form. But I'd gotten some presents, but I had not gotten the puppy dog. I remember exactly what I was wearing. I was wearing like this Holly Hobby blouse and these corduroy pants that were a little bit bell bottomed. Anyway, I was 4 years old. Just to put this all in context, it's not like I was 16. And and the puppy wasn't there. And I was like disappointed, but not wanting to show my disappointment. And all the presents had been opened. And I remember mom saying, I think there's one more in the back, Shawna, but I think you're the only one who can reach it. Can you reach back there at that last present? I'm like, please be the puppy, please be the puppy. And I opened it up, and sure enough, it was that little puppy, and the batteries were already in it, and it was ready to bark at me. And it was not plush. It was not, I mean, you got to think old school here. I wore that thing down to where the covering over the plastic of this puppy was just like almost see-through because I loved on that puppy so hard.
Yeah. So I very specifically remember this puppy. My experience of it was very different, but it also, just to tell you, like it would bark and then it would stop walking because could walk, and then it would sit back and go up on its hind legs and bark some more. And it was this arf, arf. It was
Yep.
the most obnoxious toy.
It was the best
And
thing
you
since
loved it.
sliced bread. I love that puppy so much. Oh, that's
I'm guessing
fun.
all of us have memories of that puppy.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so fun. You know, like the holidays they do have the precious memories and precious moments around them. And some of them happen and some of them we get to create. So as we
Yeah.
step into the holiday season, how can we be intentional about creating moments that, decades from now will be remembered?
Right. And I think that takes intentionality. So, I mean, just even to throw out some ideas of, and I want to grow in this, I want to
Yeah.
add some to my toolbox in the coming years. But part of it, like, okay, I'm going to give an example of something we did one time for Thanksgiving. And we don't do it every year. We did it when your Bailey, actually, our niece, found this game. And so at Thanksgiving, we had some M&Ms in the house. And so we passed out M&Ms. And so you just got to grab, I think, like 3 M&Ms. And then there was this, you would take your M&Ms, you were allowed to eat them right away, and based on the color, you would have to share what
Hmm.
you were thankful for. And so if you got an orange one, you had to name one person you were thankful for.
Hmm.
If you got a green one, you had to name a place you were thankful for. If you got yellow, you name a food that you're thankful for. If you got blue or purple, kind of bluish. I guess there's not that many M&Ms I think that are that color, but name something that starts with the first letter of your name that you are thankful for. And if you get red, name a thing you are thankful for. So it was so much fun because we got to hear different things. We ended up doing a couple of rounds of it, and there were like 15 people at our table. But we did a couple of rounds because we were having so much fun with it, and just hearing different, instead of just saying, name what you're thankful for this year, and can get a little repetitive. It just brought a whole different
Yeah.
context to it. So even just integrating fun little games like that, it's not like it has to be, okay, everybody sit down, it's like, pass out some, I mean, just kind of flows in the day. And so things like that, I think, are so much fun. And our resources are so big now. We can, Google games to play at the
Sure.
table. I mean, you can do a categories kind of thing. There's just so many things we can do. So that's one idea.
I love that. And
How
that's
about you? Do you have fun things that you have done?
I do, but I just have to say before I dive into that, that's so Bailey. Like
Yeah.
she just is a deep
Yeah.
thinker. She's very thoughtful. She's very creative, and she always comes with ideas. And that's so fun. I think I might steal that for this Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'm sure we have M&Ms in the house somewhere. We can pull this off. I think one of my favorite Christmas traditions is something that we kind of fell into as a family. So being that we don't live close to the rest of the family in Southern California, we've always been out of state, whether that's Iowa or Arizona or Michigan, we've been far away. So on Christmas Eve, we usually have, well, I guess it's been different in different contexts, but right now we have 2 different services. So there's an earlier Christmas Eve service and a later Christmas Eve service. And so I always make a great big pot of chili. And on Christmas Eve, it's kind of an open invitation that we have plenty to feed. And so it's not something that we plan in advance where we invite, let's invite Jody and Johnny over tonight. No, it's just the kind of thing where we go to the first Christmas Eve service, and whomever we end up having conversation with and we feel like the Lord's leading us to, yes, let's invite them over for dinner, we just invite them to join us for chili. And so it ended up being group of people that maybe didn't know each other. My son might invite somebody, and my husband might invite somebody, and I might invite somebody, and we're all like, hope there's enough for everybody who comes. But it turned into such a fun Christmas tradition. Of course, we lived in Arizona. We would do it. We'd eat chili. We'd put a fire on and eat chili around the pool out in the backyard. And now that we're in Michigan, it looks a little different. We're all kind of coming in and dusting the snow off, and but it's become something that is really precious. We actually have a friend who, during COVID, a young man who was like, so are you guys doing Christmas Eve, or like what time should I come for Christmas Eve chili? And we're like, oh,
Oh.
Eden has COVID. And he's like, okay, so what time should I come? We're like,
Oh,
well,
he
she's
didn't
sick
care.
with COVID and she's at our house. So we're actually not doing the big thing. And he's like, okay, so is it okay then if I stop by a little bit later? Or so it's like I can't miss chili at the buyers. Like that's what we do. But it became something
Oh.
really, fun that we just never knew quite how it was going to turn out. But it was a joy to have an open table and have an open, everybody had opportunity to invite whoever they wanted to invite. It was kind of a special time.
I love that. It makes it so community and then creates just some great memories, which is super fun.
And it turned out
So,
being
y-
people who don't have family to be with. And so
yeah,
we were there for each other and it was really cool.
yeah. And that's fun, especially something that you learned even to meet that need being a family that was kind of by yourself in
Yep.
that community. So that's a really fun thing. Yeah, Christmas Eve is kind of the night that everything shifts and we have to be willing to, I think traditions are so good, but we also have to be willing to adjust because as our family changes and grows, we have to adjust what our expectations of the holidays are. And
Hmm.
so I've even been talking with a friend about that because she has some newly married children, and so you're incorporating more people and actually other families'
Sure.
schedules into your schedule. And so just even sharing with her, like it can look different and still be so special. And we need to take what we have and work with that instead of being frustrated because we're not getting this hour that we've always done at this time. Let's be adaptable and let's change it up from year to year while still continuing some of our traditions. But we now get together on Christmas Eve and we open presents and we do a dinner together typically because I work at a church, so I work on Christmas Eve.
Right.
And so typically what I'll do is throw a pot of soup in the crock pot, and so when we come home, soup is ready to eat and we sit down and eat dinner, and then open presents and just have a good time together as a family, which is just so fun. When the kids were little, I started this where I would light candles when we opened presents. And it was almost just this kind of preparation for this time. So it wasn't just this like chaos of ripping into presents. We prepared for it and set the tone, and then we take turns opening gifts so that we take our time with it. We can see what each person gets. We can talk about it. We can try things
Fun.
on and just kind
Yeah.
of enjoy our time together. And so we're very, very intentional. I love family time. I know you do too. And so I try to be really intentional with that time together. So yeah, it's kind of fun. This year, Christmas Eve is on a Sunday. And so we'll get to have a bigger chunk of the day together. And so that's
Hmm.
really fun too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This is a little bit going backwards in time because I just I don't know how you feel about Halloween, and I know that can be um, a difficult one to figure out, especially if you have young kids. As a family, when we lived in Arizona, we planted a church and we literally canvassed the neighborhood, meaning we went door to door and introduced ourselves to people and wanted them to know that they were welcome to come and be a part of what we had going and come check it out. And we'd love to get to know you and meet you. And we realized on one night every year, everybody came to our door and we're like, okay, we feel like this is a God-given opportunity. And so we just really dove into that being an evening of hospitality. I would put on a big pot of apple cider. I'd have some coffee going for the adults. We'd have some kind of cheese crackers kind of hors d'oeuvre thing going on inside the house. So if people stopped by that we felt like it was appropriate to invite them inside, we could bring them inside and spend some more time with them, and or even adults that were coming with their littles trick or treating would say, "You need a cup of hot coffee to keep you warm as you're going or keep you moving." Sure, I'd love that. And we just use that as an opportunity to open up relationship opportunities for relationship with our neighbors.
I love that. You know, talking about Halloween, we do a big event at our church called Trunk or Treat, and so we'll have like we have like 4,000 people go through our gates, and we have all the cars in the parking lot, and I know it's crazy. It's a
Wow.
lot of people. And yeah, we pass out candy. And so it's just a great opportunity to bless people. And so yes, we can say it's a dark holiday, but the truth is like no, there, the enemy doesn't own any day, and this is a great opportunity to bless and love. And also, if you go back to the roots of how, we can talk about all that, but
Sure.
it's a great opportunity to bless and love. And so it's so fun to watch these kids go through this line of all these cars, because they have heard God bless you so many times
Mm.
that by the time they get even, I don't know, halfway through, they're so cute, because as you put candy in their bucket, they say, God bless you. God
Oh,
bless you, which
Jody,
is
I love
right.
that.
It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. And so we can take something and really make it a time of blessing and encouragement. And so, yeah, I mean, we want people at the church on
Mhm.
that night. Yeah. And then that actually leads into, for Thanksgiving, we have church services, a special church service for Thanksgiving. It's a really fun one. And it's testimonies. And so it's
Mm.
just really talking about how we've, been transformed by the Lord throughout the year. And so it's a real blessing, real encouraging. And then we bring any new babies that were born that year up on stage, and we sing a song. And, it's just kind of a fun tradition. And so I love the Thanksgiving service. And then also Christmas Eve services. We go to church
Yeah.
because that sets the tone for what our holiday, because it matters.
Mhm.
And so that's a part of what we do. It's a part of our tradition.
It's so good. So, one of the things about the holiday season, I like write notes to my future self. I think we've talked about this before, but I put them in the calendar so that I
Yeah.
don't get totally surprised. But I'll write a note to my future self and say, hey, it's going to get really crazy. There's going to be a lot of commitments. There's a lot going on right now. And then the extra of, the shopping that you want to do and all those kinds of things. Jodes, how do you keep the main thing in the midst of all the crazy? How do you keep, you know what I mean? Because like Thanksgiving, specifically one tradition that it's kind of new for me now, but it's 3 years that I've done it, is I put out a no complaining challenge to everybody who listens to Perry and Shauna Mornings to join me for the month of November, and let's not complain at all as we walk through the month. So every time we want to complain because the lines are long, the traffic's bad, whatever, just stop, don't say those words, and instead say to the Lord something that you are grateful for. Just shifting your mindset, just shifting it in that moment. And so that's been kind of a holiday tradition, or November tradition anyway, that has helped me to prepare my heart for Thanksgiving. But what are the things that you do that help you to be heart ready to celebrate?
I love that. There are a couple things I do. One is I will do, especially leading into Christmas, I'll do an Advent kind of study, which really puts my focus on the Lord. Also, in our reading plan, I get to create the reading plan for our church, and so I
Nice.
very intentionally make the book of Luke part of that reading plan, so that or Mark, I think it is this year. So we get to read the gospel and be reminded about what we are celebrating. And so
Mm.
to try to be real intentional with that. I mean, this is kind of a really, really tiny thing, but it's all the little things, right? I have a chalkboard by my little coffee station. If you've been listening to Sean and I for a bit, we both really like coffee. It's a really
Mhm.
important part of the day. And so I have a little chalkboard by there, and I put scripture on there. And so for Thanksgiving, I change it to something that is, to do with Thanksgiving. And then for Christmas, I'll change it to something that has to do with Christmas, maybe one of the prophecies prophesying Jesus
Yeah.
coming or something like that. And so I try to be very intentional with the things around me that point me to the Lord and remind me what we are celebrating. When the kids were little, one of the things that I loved was intentionally reading Luke 2. So our kids went
Mhm.
to a Christian school, and when they were in first grade, they had to memorize Luke 2. This is, if there are parents out there that have children really of any age, memorizing Luke 2, you think, well, that's a lot. Yeah, it is. It is so precious. My kids still know it. They are 29
I
and
love that.
26, and they still know Luke 2, which that is so precious. And I know it because I memorized it with them. But
And
they
they
had little
say it, and you,
motions. Yeah.
in your mind, you get to see them at 6 again every time they recite it.
Okay. So as you say that, there's this one part that the teacher taught them where they said, and Mary took all these things and she pondered them in her heart. And they pat their heart and their little chubby first grade fingers that just, haven't
Yes.
like really like thinned out yet. And I
Oh,
just see those and, and they pondered and she pondered it. And you just go, oh, melt my
hot.
heart.
Oh.
Right? Right. It just melts you. And this is getting the word of God in our kids and really pointing them to what really matters. So a lot of times when the kids were little, we would recite Luke 2 together
That's
on
awesome.
Christmas Eve or on Christmas Day because it was so because they had it and they knew
Mhm.
it and then that kept it fresh. And so just a really kind of fun thing to do. But what if the month of December we memorized that first section of Luke 2? What if that
Yeah.
we spent that time? I mean, we've got time. We're doing this. This episode's coming out at the end of November. What if we did that for December? What a great gift. Okay, and then one other thing I did this intentionally because I wanted the book to be special. So I packed it away with my Christmas decorations. But book by Max Lucado, and it's called The Tale of the Trees. Are you familiar with that one?
No, I don't. I love Max Lucado, but I don't know that one. Yeah.
I know. It's this story of these three trees and one wants to be strong and one wants to be beautiful and one wants to point to Christ, wants to grow as tall can be and point to Christ and these lumberjacks come in and they cut the first one down and uh the one that wants to point to Christ and they cut it into planks and they throw it onto a pile. And the one that wants to be strong, they take it and they form it into a boat and it's just a fishing boat. And then the one that wants to be beautiful, they actually um, make a manger out of it and the animals eat out of it.
Mm.
And then the one that is the manger, um, Jesus gets placed. I'm gonna get weepy, but
I'm
Jesus gets
getting
placed
weepy.
in that. Oh my gosh!
Ah.
But Jesus gets placed in that manger, and it actually is the most beautiful that it could possibly be as it holds
Yeah.
our savior. And then the fishing boat is in a storm and it's got all these men in the boat and one of the men is asleep and he's woken up and he calms the storm. And this boat carried Jesus across. And then you have the third tree that just wanted to point to God. And at one point those planks are taken off that pile and they're carried on a man's back and a man is nailed to these pieces. And this cross points to God and our Savior. And you just think God has created us. Basically, it talks about how we are created for His glory and to
Mhm.
live out our purpose. It might look different than what we want it to look like, but we are created to live out our purpose. And you get to see that. So it's just like that was a book that I actually packed away with our Christmas things because I wanted it to be special at Christmas time.
Mm.
And so we would read that book kind of throughout that season. So it's kind of a fun tradition
Oh,
that we
that's so
did. But it
good.
was, so good for my heart too.
Yes. So interestingly enough, I don't have that specific book, but my Christmas books I also pack away with my Christmas decorations because reading is just a big part of my parenting. Homeschooled the kids when they were really little, and we used a literary based curriculum, and so yeah, lots of reading, lots of there's so many teachable moments when you curl up with a little one on your lap or by your side and you're just reading a book, a children's book that they're going to enjoy because the one you just told us about, The Tale of the Trees, tells the story of who Jesus is from his birth
Yep,
to his life to his death and why. And those can open up conversations, allow space for your kids to be curious when you're reading to them. Let them interrupt you, and have some holy moments, have some great teachable conversations about who Jesus is. It's so good.
absolutely. Yeah. When do you decorate for Christmas?
My preference is the day after Thanksgiving. And interestingly
Me
enough,
too.
my youngest daughter's birthday is December 1. And if we haven't gotten the tree up by her birthday, that's always her request is that we would put the tree up on her birthday. So that is
Oh,
often
that's
part of
so
her birthday. Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
looks different. Our family's all over the place. Go ahead.
Yeah, this year. I was just gonna say that's usually people don't want the tree for their birthday, but I love that Have wants it up.
I think it's not really about the tree. It's about Haven is experiences are really important to her, and she wants us to have shared
Mhm.
experiences. So oftentimes, this is actually kind of a nice little. It fits into the conversation about holiday traditions. Things are not important to Haven, but people are, and experiences with people are. So she
Yeah.
will often give Christmas gifts that are an experience. Like one year, she was quite young. She took us all to the movie theater. And it was just
Oh,
so sweet the way that she walked up to the counter and paid for all the tickets, and we
oh,
all
my
went to the
heart.
movies together. Yeah, and she was like, "Does anybody want popcorn?" It's just so precious. And another time, she took us all glow in the dark miniature golfing because
Oh,
it's
fun.
winter cold, so it was indoors. And but yeah, so she likes to create experiences for us, and she often gives gifts that are not a physical tangible thing, but an experience that we can share and create memories together. So I think that's why she likes doing the tree
Yep.
on her birthday, because we're all together doing it. So it's really
Yep.
a bit of a gift
It's a
for her.
win-win.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I like to decorate the day after Thanksgiving as well, and I put my tree up, so I like to go shopping for the tree and everything. It'll take a couple extra days to get the tree up, but I everything is decorated and I have bins of Christmas decorations. I love the holiday season. I
Mhm.
love getting ready for that, and I love decorating my house. I love just everything that goes along with it. I love baking. I love all of that. But I do think back when we would put the tree up. So now I have a tree that has some decorations that I purchased for it. When the kids were little, and then I have a second tree in my house now that I put our old ornaments on it.
Okay,
But when the kids were
overachiever.
little, I would buy them a or I know that one's a fake tree. I put the real tree with the nice ornaments. But when the kids were little, I just had the one tree,
Yeah.
and we decorated the tree together. And I made a point. Now, this is going to be cringy for some people, but I made a point because we bought presents for the kids, and then I mean bought ornaments for the kids, and it kind of would mark where they were at that year. Like when Lauren was playing the flute one year, we got her a flute. Like we kind of tried to mark
Yeah.
what was going on in their lives. But I let them put their ornaments up, and I did not move their ornaments.
Very good.
So when they were really little and they could only reach the bottom, that's where their ornaments were. And I did not move them because that's where they had placed them. And so I know I had friends where it was just so painful
Yeah.
for them if they would come to my house and see that, or to the thought that I let the kids put their. But to me, it was about doing this together. And so we would make hot chocolate and put Christmas music on and light the candles and decorate the tree.
I
So much
love
fun.
that. I love that. Hey, I've got a question for you
Yeah.
around Christmas. What did you guys do with Santa Claus? How did you guys handle that? Because that's a hard one, I think, for families with young ones too, to kind of figure out.
Yeah, that is a little complicated. And so, I think each family needs to make their own decision on that in what is right for your kids. We would say that the stockings came from Santa, and our kids knew at a very young age that that just meant mom and dad
Yeah.
did it, and we're saying that it came from Santa. Tyler was that kid. Tyler is our oldest, and he was the kid who, like, if you said, uh, Oh, okay, so I'm gonna give you an example. One time he was at preschool, and there was one of the preschool teachers, they had a drain right outside their classroom door, and the kids would get sand in their shoes, and they would take their shoes off, and they would pour it down the drain. And so she was trying to get the kids not to pour the sand down the drain because it was clogging the drain, and it was there in case it rained. And so
Right.
she said there was a I think she told them there was an animal or a monster living in the drain, and
Oh
if they
no.
poured the sand down there, it would hurt I don't know. She gave him some story like that. And so I went to pick up Tyler from school that day, and he looked at me and he said, "Mom, is there really 4
Yeah.
years old? Is there really a monster living inside that drain?" "No, honey, there's not."
Yeah.
Because I always felt like it was super important for me to tell them the truth. And so with Christmas too, with Santa Claus, Mom, is Santa Claus really real? He was
Hmm.
very analytical. He's an engineer.
Hmm.
And so I answered truthfully. And so, no, but it's just fun to pretend, and it's fun to go and sit on Santa's lap and take pictures. And so we do that. But no, It's not real. And so I was just honest with
Mhm.
my kids. How about you? How did you do it?
Same, same. So, interestingly
Mhm.
enough, I don't remember this being a tradition as we were kids growing up, Jodes, but we did the same thing. The
Mhm.
presents came from one another, and all the kids knew that, Um, and I think we had said when they were little that the stockings were from Santa, but we so made it not a big deal that it just wasn't a big deal. I mean, the kids, I think not just because of
Mhm.
the way we handled Christmas, but just because of the way that we handled life and relationship with Jesus, that they knew that Christmas was about Jesus. It's so the Santa thing was just kind of not a big deal, I guess.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
there,
You know what?
but
I just thought, yeah, I just thought of something when you were talking. One of our friends, um, Marilyn DeMaster, would bake a cake, a birthday cake for Jesus. And they would actually sing happy birthday to Jesus on Christmas
I
morning. And
love
I thought
that.
I never really adapted that into my tradition with the kids, but I just thought that is so sweet. I love that. Maybe I'll start that with Faye when she comes to Paka and Nana's house.
Oh, I love that too. When we lived in Arizona, I know we have to wrap up, but when we lived in Arizona, my kids for a season went to a Christian school, and it was like year one. And I hadn't had a thorough talk with my kids about, how I'm the juice box mom. So one of my kids had signed me up to bring Jesus's birthday cake. And I thought, well, you can't just like break open a box of, and make something for Jesus, like at a Duncan Hines or whatever. So I really felt like it had to be all from scratch, and it was a lot of effort, and I ended up somehow messing up the ingredients on the frosting. The cake turned out fantastic, but the frosting straight up tasted like rum. Just straight up rum.
Oh
I
no.
don't even know how I did it. But yeah, I had to bring it to the Christian school and be like, "Hey, the cake looks really pretty and we can like put candles on it and sing and everything, but I don't know that you actually want to serve it to the children because it tastes like rum." So it was actually quite entertaining to see how there were some kids that were just loving that cake and gobbling it up. We're like, I don't know if you do that,
Okay.
but it did establish me as the juice box mom moving forward.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
I would
No,
take it
no
as a
homemade
win.
cakes. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there are great traditions that we can integrate, and sometimes it's just fun, and our kids get to know and get familiar with that, and so it's important for that. And ultimately, we definitely want to have traditions that point to Christ, point
Yeah.
to what we are actually celebrating. And so whether you as a family decide to read Luke 2 or something from Isaiah, one of the prophecies from Isaiah, or you are intentional with, there's these I had these Advent Christmas tree ornaments, and we would do one a day, something like that, or one a week. There are so many different ways that we can make sure that we're turning our focus to the Lord. It's a great opportunity for us to gather as family and tell the Christmas story. So
Mhm.
take every opportunity you have this Christmas season, this holiday season. Bless people. People are in a hurry. They might be a little crabby. They might even cut you off. But how about if we just really try this holiday season to really focus on blessing people,
Mhm.
encouraging them, and bringing the light of Christ into a time where people seem to get pretty stressed. And as we enter this holiday season, we just want to encourage you to always remember we serve a real God and He really loves you.